report. And rather than writing something lengthy about all the options that we have at the number 16 pick and also into the second and third rounds in the upcoming draft, I'm tired of typing. I've done mock drafts, I've done too many scouting reports. So I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a video instead to kind of walk you through it that way. Hopefully you like this. If you do like it, we can do more video content here. It's certainly something that we're open to doing, especially with some of the younger writers that want to get into the more multimedia thing. So if you like this, please support it. Tell your friends, tell us, give us some feedback on it, and that would be very appreciated. Okay, we got the 16th pick. And there's a lot of options out there, and I think it's important to first go through who's not going to be there. And again, this is all conjecture because we don't know. This is a very unpredictable draft. After the first two picks, I'm not real sure what anybody thinks is going to happen, but there's a pretty good idea of who's going to be gone that will be high on the Lions list. Foremost is Ronnie Stanley. I'm on record as saying that if Ronnie Stanley is on the board at 16, the Lions are running to the podium and making the pick. I absolutely still believe that. He's not going to be there. He might not be there at 8, let alone 16. So I think we have to forget about him. Sheldon Rankins, the defensive tackle out of Louisville, would be nice. He's not going to be there either. It certainly doesn't look like Shaq Lawson is going to be there, the defensive end from Clemson. I think those are the three most viable, realistic targets that I think everybody would agree the Lions have looked at in this draft process. There's a chance Lawson could be there. It would surprise me, but stranger things have happened. And like I said, this is a completely unpredictable draft. The next 72 hours or so are going to probably blow our minds with what all's going on. So yeah, it's rule out those guys. So now you're getting the more realistic picks. And now you're looking at defensive tackles, offensive linemen. The most likely seems to me Ryan Kelly, the center out of Alabama. And I got wind of this about, 4 or 5 days ago, and I sent it up the food chain to a couple of guys that are much higher up in the draft media world, and they both came back very quickly and said, yes, the Lions have very real interest in Ryan Kelly. They'd heard that from both inside the building and from sources outside. You can read that as being Alabama or the agents or whatever, but there's a lot of legs to this. There is definite fire behind this smoke. Will they take him at 16? Maybe. That's the pick that I have in my final mock draft, which you can check out over on Real GM, and we'll link all that stuff up later. And we'll also have another full 7-round mock draft for the Lions here tomorrow at some point if I ever get around to it, because this is just a busy time of year, so you'll have to bear with us on that. So Ryan Kelly, I think, is the most viable option at 16 of the realistic things. You're looking at offensive tackles. You got Jack Conklin. I don't think he's going to be there. I wouldn't take him there, but I certainly think the Lions would. He's a guy who would certainly help out in the run game. I have a feeling he's going to be gone no later than 15. If you're doing a mock draft at home, by the way, and Jack Conklin is still on the board at 15, you need to put him there because that would be the Titans' pick. I would feel incredibly confident about that. So rule him out. Taylor Decker is an interesting option. I broke out a scouting report on him yesterday. He would certainly fit the bill, and I would support that. But I just don't see the Lions looking at offensive tackle as being that pressing of a need in the first round. It doesn't mean that they won't do it, and I think saying definitively in any one direction what the Lions are or aren't going to do with Bob Quinn at the controls, I think is foolish because we don't know. We're all apt to be surprised. But Taylor Decker, I would like it and I would support it, but it's a deal where I think that the Lions are going to look and find better value elsewhere. And I do know this. I do know that the heat is very much on Travis Swanson. They would love to upgrade the center position. Now, Swanson's going to get a chance to redeem himself. He had a bad shoulder last year. But this regime is not tied to him as the third-round pick. That currency doesn't mean anything anymore. And if they can make an upgrade with Ryan Kelly, I think they'll do it. The wild card options, I think you're looking at wide receiver, probably not in the first round anyways. And I'm just refer to my notes here for a little bit. Yeah, I don't have any that are going in the top 20, and I don't think the Lions are going to be the team that breaks that trend. So I would rule that out in the first round. You're looking at day 2, day 3 guys, where I think the wide receiver help is going to come in. But that's a topic for another day. Defensive line. there is definite potential for a guy like Andrew Billings or Jaron Reed, even Ashawn Robinson, though I tend to not think so. I will say no on Robert Kemdiche. It's not a deal where he's a bad dude. He's a different kind of dude, and I just think that there's some. I don't think the Lions are willing to risk the first pick, the pick that everybody's going to associate with Bob Quinn, on a guy who has some questions to him. Let's put it that way. So I don't see that. Chris Jones out of Mississippi State is a guy that nobody ever talks about, and I'm guilty of it too. I was actually looking at it when I was filling out my things earlier today. I have one tweet about Chris Jones in the last year, and I've watched a lot of him. I have a very high evaluation of him. He's a top 25 talent on my board, but it's one of those deals. He's just so anonymous. He probably deserves more run as potential at 16, and you certainly can't rule him out. So put him in the hopper for that. Vernon Butler is a guy that I think I know a lot of you like him. I like him as well. I really liked what I saw from him at the Senior Bowl, and I watched a freakish amount of Louisiana Tech tape this year. I watched 7 of their games just because they had a ton of prospects for a smaller school. I love what he could become. He is not going to be that great right away. And I think also there's a chance he could be there in the second round. I think it's a slim chance, but I don't see him going in the top 25 anyways. And hope that Green Bay doesn't take him late on in the first round, because I think they have their eye on him too. And he would certainly cause some problems if he went to Green Bay for the Lions. But if you look at the depth in the second round at defensive tackle, there's a lot of guys. Austin Johnson, Kenny Clark, even Jonathan Bullard out of Florida would fit in there. A guy like Javon Hargrave, Mr. Bubble Butt himself out of South Carolina State. He was the best player I've seen in my 6 years going to the Shrine Game. He's a legit second-round talent. He kind of fits in the mold of Billings as an attacking sort of one technique that you can also move to the 3. But he's very hit and miss at this point. He's going to take some coaching. But these guys are all going to be there in the second round. And I think that all of those guys are potential NFL starters and viewed as such by most people within the organization. So I'm looking at the offensive line, specifically Kelly, but maybe Decker, maybe Conklin if they're there for the first, and then defensive line in the second. Wild cards. Cody Whitehair as an offensive lineman in the second round. That would make me very happy. He's a top 10 player for me. I think he can play tackle. I know most people project him as a guard. My cat is attacking my lamp here. You'll have to bear with me on that. Get out of here. Yeah, low budget. That's us. Go Sideline Report. But Jason Spriggs also comes into mind as a second rounder. He's not going to go that high. I just don't see teams taking a first on him, so he's a potential in the second round should they take offensive line or defensive line in the first round. William Jackson, the cornerback out of Houston, is an interesting prospect. He's going to be taken in the 20s if he's there. I know that a lot of people are like, corner, really? We've got Darius Slay, we've got, a good young core, and I have been driving that bus. I like the core, and when I talked to Lions folks in the old regime before Martin Mayhew was fired, they were incredibly high. They said that cornerback was the deepest position on the field. And I agree with that, but if they can get another guy, William Jackson, he compares so much to Darius Slay. He'd be fantastic playing opposite him. Pick your poison, and that's an interesting route to go. I don't think they're going to do it, but hey, we're all going to be surprised over the weekend at a number of things, and it could be the number 16 pick. So there's a thought. Darren Lee is another wild card. I know a couple people have mentioned him as a potential safety, and this is where I want to get off on a little bit of a tangent. Safety is a much, much, much bigger need on this team than offensive line, either center or tackle. There isn't one. Raphael Bush and Tavon Young are not starting safeties. They are right now. One of them will be with Glover Quinn. That's not good enough in the NFL. Safety is a huge need for this team. The only first-round safety that comes to mind for what Detroit needs, he played linebacker at Ohio State. His name's Darren Lee. I'm not sure if he's going to be there at 16. If he is, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, and you see him play that hybrid kind of linebacker safety position, at least in his first year, before he moves to linebacker or safety, one or the other. He's got that sort of tweener size that everybody's looking at, and he did a lot more actual accomplishment on the field than Miles Jack, and they're very similar players. Jack is a more dynamic athlete when he's healthy, and that's why he's going to be gone. But if you're looking for that type of player, Darren Lee certainly fits it. If you go down into the second round, let's see. Carl Joseph, the safety out of West Virginia, missed most of last year with a knee injury. He's a volatile player. He's a playmaker. He's great in coverage, but he's small. He's like 5'9.5", coming off of a knee injury, but he's very instinctive in coverage. He's a dynamic player, and putting him back there with Glover Quinn would make me very excited, and I would like to see that. Keanu Neal, a guy out of Florida, I think he's DJ Swearinger 2.0. I can't stand his game. He runs past so many tackles. Now he's going to make some highlight crunches, and he's a big-time hitter, and he would help in the box against the run, but with the coverage liability in the division that the Lions are in, you just can't afford that. So I would pass on him. Everybody's favorite sleeper, Justin Simmons, obviously an option in the third round, I think. I don't think he's going to go higher than that. But he would certainly look nice back there as well, especially if the draft folds out where you get your offensive and defensive linemen in the first and second rounds. Getting Simmons in the third as a safety who can start right away would be great. There's a couple other safeties that are later on. A guy that I'm a big fan of, and I did a profile of him at Draft Breakdown, is Danzel McDaniel out of Kansas State. He played cornerback there. When I talked to him, he said that the Lions see him as a safety, and he is one of the teams that he has met with is the Lions. So he's a late round guy. He's also coming off of a torn up knee. If you're curious about him, please ask me about him because I'm a big proponent of his. He was great in 2015 or 14 during the season, and I'm a big fan going forward. He's a guy that if the Lions can get him in the 5th or 6th round or even 7th round, I would be super happy. So let me know what you guys think of this video. Let me know what you think about the potential in the first round, the second round, how you want it to play out. We got a comment section here. You can interact with me on social media through the Facebook page, Sideline Report, also on Twitter, Sideline Report, or me, Jeff Risdon. You know who I am by now, hopefully. Also, for your listening pleasure, I'm going to be on the air tomorrow with Mike Payton, who has been around here for a long time. We're doing 96.1 is having a draft party in Grand Rapids. If you can make it out to Pepino's in downtown Grand Rapids tomorrow, please come out. We're going to be live on the air from 3 to 7 with Big Drew and Jim. We got giveaways, including Lions tickets for the regular season. So give it a listen. Stream it along on the iHeartRadio app, which I know you all have. And God, I sound like a shill. That's terrible. I'll end this now. Thanks for watching.